He is the fan without fear.
He's a completist, not a defeatist.
Colors comics year after year.
Supreme comic book leader.
Fight for justice that is
An
blind.
advocate, not a terminator.
With the awesome power of his mind.
He speaks for the devil in red.
This is the Fan Without Fear Completist Retrospective. And my name is Nick, the Fan Without Fear. Let's take a look at what's on our radar for today. Daredevil number 6, Trapped by the Fellowship of Fear. This issue is an issue of first and last. It's the first appearance of Daredevil villain Mr. Fear, the original Mr. Fear. It's the last time we'll see Daredevil in his yellow suit. And it's another time Daredevil will fight a Spider-Man villain, since the Ox is a member of the Fellowship of Fear.
Issue number 6 is our first cover to be drawn by penciler Wally Wood instead of Jack Kirby. Mr. Fear is our only new character making his first appearance here, as the other villains in the Fellowship of Fear may have already been familiar to the Marvel Universe readership. The Ox is a member of the Enforcers, who appeared frequently as backup to supervillains in early issues of The Amazing Spider-Man. In their first appearance, the Enforcers worked for the Big Man, who was one of the first crime figures to try to unite the New York mobs before the creation of the Kingpin. But the team had also recently hired out their services to bigger names, like the Green Goblin and the Sandman. Here in Daredevil, Ox was paroled before the other members of the Enforcers, and takes work on Mr. Fear's new team. Basically, the Ox's whole gimmick is just being really strong. The Eel, on the other hand, you may not remember. He appeared twice before, battling the teenage Human Torch, apart from the rest of the Fantastic Four, in issues of Strange Tales. His backstory is almost non-existent. In his first appearance, he steals a bomb without knowing it's a bomb, requiring Johnny Storm to save him and everyone else. And when next seen, Eel got one of those stories where the bad guy is out of prison, claiming to be reformed, and everybody seems to believe he's gone straight, except for the hero who initially captured him. Frankly, I liked it better when the Penguin did it. The Eel doesn't have any powers, but his specialized suit is greased to make him extremely slippery and hard to hold on to. Also, his Eel suit was wired for electric shock attacks, but that seems to have been forgotten in this appearance. Mr. Fear himself is often considered a ripoff of DC Comics' Scarecrow, because both supervillains rely on a fear gas weapon. The similarities are undeniable, but I don't think this is a case of trying to milk any popularity from the Batman villain. Scarecrow was created during the golden age of comics, and only appeared twice, in 1941 and in 1943. After those humble beginnings, Scarecrow did not make an appearance in comics again until 1967. Mr. Fear first appeared here in Daredevil in 1965. So a case could be made to say the ripoff actually helped contribute to the popularity of and renewed interest in the original. Also, the original Mr. Fear, Zoltan Drago, has a very different origin from Dr. Jonathan Scarecrow Crane. Drago was a waxwork sculptor who discovered his fear gas accidentally while working with chemicals and instantly realized the potential to weaponize and profit from his creation. Daredevil number 6 is full of beautifully drawn extended action sequences by Wally Wood and is supported by the scripting of Stan Lee. Oddly, our title page opens with an apology. There was apparently concern Mr. Fear was too similar to recent villain The Purple Man, which is a comparison I don't really think is valid. Both supervillains coerce cooperation, but Zoltan Drago does so through the threat of his fear gas, whereas Kilgrave the Purple Man enlisted aid through the merits of being purple from science. Daredevil finds the Ox and the Eel breaking into a bank under the guise of filming a movie. This would seem to be another example of Stan Lee recycling ideas from issues of Amazing Spider-Man, as the Ox and the Enforcers used a similar ploy to battle Spidey while working for the Green Goblin. Long story short, Spidey was attacked on a movie set while he thought he was working with actors. Interestingly, here in Daredevil number 6, Ox is wearing a purple shirt instead of his signature yellow. I assume this change was just to help separate him from the still yellow-clad Daredevil. Hornhead is making short work out of outmaneuvering the second-string team of the Ox and the Eel, but Mr. Fear attacks with his fear gas, and Daredevil seems to turn coward and flees the scene. To lure Daredevil into a trap, Mr. Fear designs a wax figure of the Man Without Fear and publicly announces its unveiling. Karen Page is actually the one interested in seeing the sculpture, so she, Foggy, and Matt all go to the exhibit. The dim-witted Ox is keeping careful watch for Daredevil to arrive, and Foggy Nelson spots the wanted fugitive in the shadows. Matt also detects the odor of fear gas, and both Foggy and Matt individually decide to return later to investigate. Arriving first, DD is again outwitting Ox and Eel when Foggy blunders onto the scene. Matt is shot with the fear gas, and Foggy is injured by the powerful Ox. Mistaking the young lawyer for a policeman, the Fellowship of Fear retreats, but Foggy's injury requires hospitalization. Drago resolves to murder Foggy in his hospital bed to keep his identity as Mr. Fear a secret. But fortunately, Matt Murdock is visiting his partner, and the Fellowship's disguises hide nothing from the way Matt perceives the world. Daredevil turns out the lights to fight the villains on his terms, in the darkness, and easily drives them away. The fear gas never comes into play here because, strangely, Drago exposits that he forgot it at home. Predictably, the Fellowship of Fear return to their hideout, but this time Daredevil is standing in for his own wax figure and waiting to ambush them. Now, Mr. Fear does attempt to attack with his fear gas, but DD has positioned himself near an industrial fan and blows the gas away. Better prepared to deal with the Fellowship, Matt overcomes the Eel's greased body by covering him in sand and outsmarts the Ox's brute force until the man-giant is unable to continue fighting. With his team defeated, Drago immediately surrenders, and Matt realizes that even without the influence of the mind-altering gas, Mr. Fear is a true coward.
We've not seen the last of Mr. Fear. The mantle of Mr. Fear is going to be passed on to more than one supervillain in the future, and toward the end of Daredevil Volume 1 and Daredevil Volume 2, we'll see some very mean-spirited, ugly attacks from Mr. Fear. So make sure you subscribe so you don't miss any of the details. Until next time, always live without fear.